It is an international community responsibility to use that economic tool. And both we, U.S. and the EU, have a powerful tool there, but it takes political courage to use it. And I encourage the EU tomorrow to send that signal that you have the political courage to use it and try to drag the United States along with you. The Iranian government, as has already been said, is the most dangerous terrorist exporting nation in the world today. We've even had Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta in the U.S. warning the Iranians to stay out of the operations that the U.S. has been involved in around the globe. Mrs. Rajbi, the charismatic and fearless MEK president-elect, has a 10-point program that she has provided that basically would be the envy of any democratic nation in the world today, and it would free the Iranian government from the Iranian people from the tyranny of the mullah-controlled, theocratic, autocratic regime that the Iranian people have to live under today. Back in April of 2009, the EU adopted a parliament resolution rejecting the forceful displacement of the Ashraf residents. The EU was joined, ironically, in that by our own Department of State, whose representative clearly stated, and I quote, "Forcibly removing residents of Ashraf to a different location in Iraq could lead to bloodshed." No kidding. It is going to lead to bloodshed. I think all of us in this room understand that today. The United Nations Assistant Mission for Iraq, UNAMI, and the UN Secretary General Special Representative to Iraq also need to step up and declare that the Iraqi plan to displace the residents and their self-imposed deadline for closing the camp before proper disposition of the residents can be accomplished cannot and will not happen. I join Mr. Stevenson in saying that both the U.S. and the EU must quit hiding behind the lame excuse that Iraq is a sovereign nation and therefore free to massacre the residents of Camp Ashraf. We must stand together and we must declare in no uncertain terms that this is totally unacceptable behavior which will not be tolerated. Today, as I look at what needs to be done, I say first and foremost, number one, the United States must remove the MEK from the FTO list. And time is of the essence. It should have been done yesterday. It should have been done a year ago. But certainly it needs to be done immediately. We also need to make sure that the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, who has granted a status for asylum seekers to the Ashraf residents, and the UN Secretary General who has not yet provided a full-time monitoring force stationed at the camp, do so immediately. Both the U.S. and the EU must insist that UN observers on the ground are required. I've mentioned that U.S. national power is the economic tool. It takes political courage to use it, and it starts with Secretary Clinton, but ultimately it is the responsibility of President Obama. And so the second thing I would say that is needed after taking the MEK off the list is that when President Maliki meets with President Obama on 12 December, President Obama must show the political courage to use that powerful economic tool to demand that Maliki honor the United States' commitment to protect the residents of Camp Ashraf, even in the face of the Iranian resistance which Maliki will face. And we must also insist that Maliki allow a full-time UN force on the ground to protect the citizens until a resolution of their disposition can be made. The third thing is both the U.S., the UN, and the EU must notify Maliki that Ashraf cannot be closed until the UN High Commissioner for Refugees has completed its work on behalf of the Ashraf residents. And finally, we must all remember, we have a very, very narrow window in which to accomplish these actions. And the rest of the world will see that America, the EU, and the UN did not intercede when we had the opportunity to do so. And we will all bear responsibility for the horrible outcome because we lack both the moral and the political courage to stand for what is right. Thank you.